Oh, hello, hello, hello. Welcome in Fantasy Life right here with you for the next 2 hours. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis with you guys. As always, excited to be breaking down. Adam, the whole show might just be news that we got over the last couple of days. We're just days away from free agency. Like, there's so much to talk about. I'm excited for this show, and then I know what's coming, so I'm not excited to have to talk about the Seattle Seahawks, but it's fine. I'll get through it, and everything's going to be okay. How you doing?
Doing well, yeah. There's a lot going on in the NFL over the last few days. Just wild things and that's usually what we expect in the offseason, right? There's always things that we didn't anticipate happening, and that's exactly what is going on now. And I'm sure there's even more to come in the next week or two.
I want to start with, I just want to dive right in because we do have a loaded show for you today. We are so excited to be here with you on this Sunday. And as always, everyone can go and check out fantasylife.com. We're going to be going through, we've got a new mock draft that's live on the website. We've got the rookie supermodel from Dwayne McFarland. People wait a long time for that, and it is finally here. So you can go and check that out at fantasylife.com. All of our articles 100% free, and our newsletter as well. So I'm excited to be getting into all this. Can we not start with the Seahawks? Can we start with anything else? Can we do the one that just happened? Can we talk about Myles Garrett for just 1 second? Because I know there's no fantasy implications to this, but it is big news because Myles Garrett, if people don't know, requested a trade and was very adamant that he wanted to be traded. But just this morning, the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett agreed on a record contract extension, averages $40 million per year, includes $123.5 million in guaranteed money, and that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So I wanted to bring this up just because my first thought, besides Micah Parsons and how much you guys are going to have to pay him, is that Jamar Chase, the Bengals were saying we're going to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. And now you've got a contract. Like, the longer you wait, things like this happen. And we've talked about this forever, especially with the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, why are you waiting? And so here we are with Myles Garrett getting the $40 million per year, highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And that's a huge deal.
Money can change things. Garrett
no kidding.
Was adamant, right? I want to be on a contender. I want to be traded. Then you get some money, and all of a sudden your mind can be swayed. And there's a no trade clause in this deal as well. So he'll be in Cleveland. A contender? I doubt it. It's not looking good with the way that team is now. But hey, anytime you can get your money, look, I'll never fault these guys. I know so many people sit here and go, "Oh, I guess he doesn't want to win." Look, I think most people want to win. You know how competitive I am. I want to win everything. But hey, if you're gonna give me $123.5 million guaranteed, I'm kind of set for life because there's no guarantee you can win. Even if you go to a contender, we see how difficult it is to win a Super Bowl. So Garrett got his money. I can't blame him. So he'll be in Cleveland for a while.
And this is like the day after Max Crosby got that huge deal. He agreed to a 3-year, $106.5 million deal. That at the time, just a day ago, made him the league's highest non-paid quarterback. So that lasted, a day. But that's fine. These guys, I'm with you. These guys are getting their money. And like you said, money talks. So I heard this was kind of along the lines of your extension too. So, if you want to think of me, I know you haven't announced it yet, but,
Yeah, I haven't announced it. Just take away about 10 zeros, and that's my extension.
Perfect. All right. Well, I did want to bring that one up because we're still waiting on Jamar Chase and that contract and what that's going to look like. I know we're going to talk here about T. Higgins in a second, but I guess we have to start with the Seattle Seahawks. I put this in. I thought we could talk 18 minutes, the whole first segment about the Seattle Seahawks, because that's how crazy this past week has been, Adam. So I do want to start with Geno, and then we can go through DK Metcalf. We can go through Tyler Lockett. What the hell is going on with the Seattle Seahawks? So Las Vegas Raiders traded for Seattle Seahawks former now quarterback Geno Smith, reuniting him with head coach Pete Carroll. This was one thing I did not see coming. This was per Adam Schefter, Jeremy Fowler on Friday. And when I saw that news, Adam, I just sat back and I couldn't stop thinking about what direction this team is going because, you read some things and you say, well, this is a full rebuild. This is what they're doing. And then you read other things where it's like, no, it's not a rebuild. They're just retooling. But Las Vegas gave up a 2025 third round pick, which is 92nd overall in this year's NFL draft. Geno Smith was with the Seattle Seahawks for 6 seasons. And I will say, like, he really did. He revived his career. For him to be able to be traded like that and potentially get a deal, we haven't an extension, I should say, looks like in the 40 to 45 million range. Like, that's crazy. So he had 1 year and $31 million left on his contract. Personally, Adam, I thought, and I was on a podcast just the day before this happened saying, I hope he plays just on the last year of his contract and then they move on. I didn't necessarily want them to have to give him big money, but moving on right now I didn't think was ever in the plans. So this was shocking to me as a full front. I'm a Seahawks fan, so this was shocking.
Yeah, I think you could understand it in a way. I mean, you did hear McDonald say last month that Geno's our quarterback. So, yeah. And he didn't understand the conversation. Well, I think probably it came down to money, right? Mm-hmm. As far as extending him. And they saved the $31 million in cap space. So, and with Vegas, we knew that they were going to go for a veteran quarterback, right? With Pete Carroll coming in, they're not going to sit here and try and rebuild. They want to try and put a good product on the field now. So we knew that they'd be in the mix for a quarterback that has experience in the NFL, and it turns out it was Geno.
I don't hate the move for the Las Vegas Raiders whatsoever. And we can sit here and talk about Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers. They're probably going to go in and add, we're going to talk about our latest mock draft at fantasylife.com. They're going to continue to add weapons for that team. So I do not hate that for them whatsoever, because Brock Bowers was able to produce for fantasy football last season without like an actual real quarterback. He was able to do that with the Gardner Minshews, the Aiden O'Connells of the world. No offense to both of those guys, but Geno Smith bringing his game over there, it's kind of exciting. But for me, Adam, what's the Seahawks plan? What are we doing here? Because the thing that made me even more kind of upset or just questioning what's going on is that right after that, we got the notifications, we got the reports that, well, now they're going after Sam Darnold. And so for me, I'm like, first of all, Sam Darnold's not going to be cheaper than what Geno Smith was. That's the one thing people say, oh, well, he's the best veteran, quote unquote, veteran quarterback that's out there. But for me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, even if he is that, he's not going to be cheaper. And honestly, Adam, anyone that goes into Seattle is going to have a very hard time succeeding behind that offensive line. So when I look at the offensive line and they say, well, we're going to put Sam Darnold back there, who's not good under pressure, it just makes me nervous. If that's the path that they're going to go down, that's fine. But one, he's going to be expensive. And two, no one can succeed behind that offensive line. So until they really start looking, especially at the interior offensive line, no one's going to succeed there. So I'm a little bit nervous if Sam Darnold is the answer for the Seahawks for this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions here of what Seattle is going to do going forward. And Darnold will be expensive. He is younger than Geno, 7 years. He had a really good season overall. But again, we saw in the 2 biggest games of the year, he was awful. He just was terrible. So, and that's what you're going to measure a quarterback on if you want to win a championship or be a contender. And that's why Minnesota likely doesn't bring him back. Obviously, they drafted J.J. McCarthy last year, invested draft capital in him. But the 2 biggest games for Darnold, it did not work out. Now, Seattle will probably be in the mix, but there's going to be other people after Darnold as well. So, yeah, this is crazy what's happened to Seattle this past week, where all of a sudden there's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, you know how many texts I've gotten? Is this how you feel every day? I've gotten strays every day on Twitter. I log in and I'm like, oh, well, here's a funny joke about the Seahawks and I'm tagged in it. And then I get sent, texts from my friends. And it's just like, is this what it feels like? Because this isn't fun. And I apologize if this is what we did for you on the show last year with the Cowboys and how bad they were. This is awful. I hate it here.
It is not fun. Trust me.
What the heck? Does it get better?
No, it gets worse. It gets worse. Great. Once the games start being played and you start losing, it gets worse. So hopefully that doesn't happen for you and that they can do something here to put it together. But it was definitely a hectic week for you being a Seahawks fan.
It was the worst. Every single day, it's like, okay, Tyler Lockett's being released. We kind of knew that was happening. Like the chances of him coming back for an 11th season wasn't in the cards just because of his cap hit. And then the same day, DK Metcalf, Adam goes, I want to trade. I'm going to request a trade. I want to get out of here. And here's the other part with the quarterback. I don't know if this means, them moving on from Geno Smith, him getting traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know if this means that now he doesn't want to be traded. I don't know if that was connected to a Geno Smith thing and thinking we couldn't win with this quarterback. I know Diana Rossini tweeted just today, that he still, I guess, wants to go somewhere. I think it was warm. And then he wants to be paid, what was it, 30 million? I do as well. So if we,
I'll take 25 mil.
25. Okay. Yeah. Ideally wants to play in a warm weather climate and is looking to make 30 million per year, says everyone listening right now. Like everyone wants to do that too. But yeah, we can talk DK Metcalf, because this was another one where I was a little bit surprised, especially the timing of it. First of all, I didn't like the timing where that comes out on the day that Tyler Lockett announced, he's going to be released. But Metcalf, my thing is that they don't necessarily have to trade him. Right? That's something where they don't necessarily have to go down that route. But I do worry, Adam, with DK Metcalf, if that means that there's going to be some toxicity between him and the team and the organization where, best efforts aren't going to be put forward, or he's going to try and sit out, anything like that makes it worse. I could see them saying, all right, well, let's try and find a trade partner. Let's try and get this done, because he just does not want to be here. So his cap hit, 31.8 million, highest among receivers, is scheduled to hit. So that's a lot. And he's entering the final year of a 3-year, $72 million contract extension. So again, they don't have to trade him. A trade would create $10.8 million in cap savings, but they don't have to do it. And I want to believe that DK Metcalf's going to be part of the 2025 Seahawks team. But if he's really adamant about going, and he, even with this Geno Smith trade, still wants to go, then yeah, maybe they find a partner, which is crazy.
Look, again, Myles Garrett demanded a trade. He winds up staying. Different situation. I understand that, but maybe it does happen. And I don't know why you're worried, because you do have Sam Howell at quarterback, so you'll be fine.
What is wrong with you? Is this what it's going to be like? It's just crazy. I don't know, Adam. I'm shaking my head. Would I not rather have, Seahawks fans rather have Justin Fields on a 1-year, $10 million deal? And just go from the, Sam Darnold scares me just a little bit. And yes, he had a great season. And I'm not saying that he didn't. I'm not trying to take away from that either. But to say that Sam Darnold is the Seahawks answer going forward, and is their answer to kind of get over the playoff hump and do everything that they can do, I don't know. Again, to me, it comes back. The offensive line is horrible. Until you have to leave no stone unturned when you're looking at that. And you honestly, here's my rant. You have to be better at kind of finding people that can identify good offensive linemen, because that's the other thing that they haven't been able to do. You need to, no stone unturned, stop putting a Band-Aid on a huge crack in the organization, and you need to go forward and find someone that's good at evaluating offensive linemen and their talent, and you need to just kind of go against the grain of what you've done as an organization for the past few years and find a way to make this offensive line better. Because again, I stand by it. Like, Sam Darnold could be good, but behind that offensive line, with the pressure that he's going to get, they had 39.4% pressure rate in 2024. That was 30th in the league. And then they had an 8.3% sack rate, which was 24th. And I think Geno Smith did a lot to mitigate how bad that offensive line was. And so, I'm sorry, Sam Darnold. It's not you. It's the Seahawks. It's really the Seahawks. Give me Justin Fields on a 1-year, $10 million deal and try and find another quarterback then.
Yeah, let's not, like you said, the Vikings offensive line was good. They were second in pass block win rate last year. Seattle was 21st. So obviously the offensive line can change. And I think a lot of us believe that Kevin O'Connell played a big part in getting Darnold to play this well. And he also had Justin Jefferson. He had a lot of weapons around him. And it was a great regular season. But with the biggest pressure games, Darnold did not come through. And that has to account for something. It's all great to have that wonderful regular season, but you still want a quarterback that can come through in the big games. And Darnold showed it was really bad. It wasn't even just, he was not that. It was bad. Awful. It was awful. I mean, he just looked like he didn't even belong on the field.
It was It was horrible. And don't even get me started on the run blocking. The run blocking is even worse for the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. I still believe I'll still be glass half full, but yeah, Sam Darnold just with the money overall just makes me kind of scared of what Sam Darnold might need. I've seen Adam. If it's Aaron Rodgers, I'm not showing up. I'm not showing up on Sundays, or just for one. You have to let me
Really?
just
Okay.
just for one. Especially if it's the day before our show. I don't know if I could do it. That's so
So
bad.
what would you like Seattle to do?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. I would. What they would have to do to go up in the draft, right? Because they are not close. I mean, to move up in the draft, they'd have to give up a lot, and then they'd have to probably trade with Cleveland, the number 2 overall pick. Seattle right now has the 18th overall pick to get a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if they go after a Jackson Dart and they try and find a project, some kind of quarterback that maybe they think or they have their eye on, and they say, well, we can have him behind a Sam Darnold for a couple seasons, then he's going to be our guy. But I just don't want to pay a ton of money. That's the thing. I don't want them to have to pay a ton of money for Sam Darnold, who again could be good, but behind this offensive line is probably going to be pressured a ton and not succeed as well as we'd like. So I don't know. Justin Fields, that sounds even, I don't know. I don't know what I want. I'm just a confused Justin Fields, 1 year, 10 million. It's not the answer, but if they think Sam Darnold's the answer, I'm going to just go with them. They're paid the big bucks, but it just makes me nervous.
Yeah, you might be better off going in that direction. It's crazy because with Clint Kubiak coming in, I was feeling good about the Seahawks, and now you're taking away pieces. I guess they're just going to run the hell out of the football at this point.
I guess they have to, right? DK Metcalf, where do you think he goes somewhere else? Do you think he's on the move?
It feels like it, and maybe he knew something that this was coming, right?
I don't know. I don't know, Geno.
That...
I see. I saw it the other way where I thought, well, maybe he'll not want to be traded because if it was a Geno thing, he'd say, well, now we can win. But maybe he knows who's coming in, and he's like, nah, I'm good. I don't want it. I don't know.
I mean, look, there's a lot of teams that will be in the mix that would want him, and we did see a report today from Diana Rossini that the asking price has gone down. Yeah, for Metcalf. So
I believe second round pick now, right? Is kind of what they're trying, because at first it was a first and a third, which was listen, for a first and a third, okay. That's, I understand that, but warm weather, I've seen. Yeah, I linked him to the Green Bay Packers. I thought he would actually be pretty solid for Green Bay, who's now, they need someone in there. Jaden Reed, who we love in fantasy football sometimes, but with the injury to Christian Watson, it was like they need depth in that receiver room. I could see him going to the New England Patriots. That's not a warm weather destination. I don't know if it's not
Chargers.
The 49ers, but yeah, the Chargers. Chargers need someone, so yeah, I don't know. And then Tyler Lockett, for me, just to close out this whole Seahawks rant, we saw the decline last year. I got a couple messages saying, where do we expect him to go in drafts, depending on landing spot? Are we still in on Tyler Lockett? And for me, unfortunately, because I've been someone that's always drafted Tyler Lockett because I always thought he was a bit undervalued, and we've had this conversation a lot, but last season you could see the decline. And when we start to get those examples of the age cliff of, aging wide receivers, we kind of have to follow those and understand that that's kind of what's going on. So he had a lot of season lows last year. And so for me, 600 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, lowest totals in each stat since 2017. 74 targets were his fewest since 2018. So for me, I guess it depends on landing spot, but I'll probably be off, unless it's a late round dart throw, in underdog drafts. That's probably the way I'm going to go about it. What about you?
Yeah, I was off this past year. He's a guy that I drafted every single year, but I was worried being a year older and with Jackson Smith and Jigba being more involved in the offense, I felt like this could be the year meaning 2024, that it would really fall apart. And it did in a big, big way. I mean, the targets went way down, receptions, yards, everything, and only 2 touchdowns as well. So I can't see myself drafting him anywhere at this point, regardless of where he lands. I think Dallas has been linked to him. Even then, yeah. I mean, I don't see it. I just think he's a player that I will not be drafting.
Let's get Russell Wilson, or no, now Geno Smith and Tyler Lockett with Pete Carroll for one last go and see what happens. Why not?
Or maybe
Send him to the
Metcalf
Raiders.
goes there.
Stop. Stop. He's gonna stay. Listen to me. Listen to me, Seahawks. If you're going after Sam Darnold, okay, I love this. Fix your offensive line. Please do that for the love of everything that is good in football. That's what you need to focus on here. If you're going to go after Sam Darnold and pay him money, fix your offensive line. There we go. That's the rant. Can we not talk about the Seahawks the rest of the show?
No, they will pop up at some point, I'm pretty sure. I don't think we're completely done.
By the way, just to finish off Seahawks talk, JSN to the moon, it feels like, depending on the quarterback, but like JSN's going to be the only guy there. He's going to be the only one there. What are we doing? Maybe they go and draft Matthew Golden, or they have other guys linked to them. Tedero McMillan's good in the draft, but like the wide receivers in the upcoming draft it's not a deep class. So yeah, JSN, there we go.
Yeah, the early projections have him for 328 targets. So yeah, he'll be getting the ball a lot in Seattle. So
stop it. You have to laugh so you don't cry. It's just crazy. Christian Kirk. Can we? This one was interesting because originally Christian Kirk was set to be released by the Jacksonville Jaguars, which we had this conversation of, potential guys that could be released because of their cap numbers. But a little turn of events was that Christian Kirk was actually traded now to the Houston Texans for a 2026 seventh round pick, per Adam Schefter. Again, this happened last week here. But yeah, they planned to release him, and then they actually were able to find a trade partner within their own division. So I always think that speaks a little bit of wonders to that. But Christian Kirk, we remember his deal because I remember where I was and I shook my head when he signed that 4-year, $72 million deal in 2022. After that, he did set career highs. I'll give him that. Career highs in catches, receiving yards, touchdown receptions. He had 8 that season. And then he missed 14 games the past 2 years. And he has not been able to stay healthy. It's the ab injury. It's the broken collarbone. So it hasn't been good for Christian Kirk. I will say, I still think because of his skill set, he is more along the lines of a wide receiver 3. Just when you look at his career numbers, Adam, for like target share, yards per route run, those are all wide receiver 3 kind of levels. So only 120% plus target share to his career, has broken 2.0 yards per route run only once. He's going to be 28 years old. So I think this means 2 things. One, Christian Kirk, maybe people will like him in this offense. I still see him as a wide receiver 3, and it feels like now Stephon Diggs will be out the door with them going to get Christian Kirk.
Certainly possible Diggs could be back. So? He could be back, but probably I would lean no, but I'm not going to rule it out. I do like the fit for Kirk here. They obviously needed another receiver. You got Nico Collins. He's going to command the football, but Kirk can play. Health obviously has been an issue. He got overpaid that first contract. We were all sitting here like, what are they doing? And he had that big year. So I think he's a good fit, though. A lot of underneath stuff. He can pile up the catches. We know that the Texans are the best team in the division, and they just need to protect C.J. Stroud. It was a disaster last year. They had a lot of injuries at receiver as well, but Nico Collins getting most of the attention opens things up for Kirk underneath. Now, we still have to see what else they do.
Yep.
Maybe Diggs comes back. Maybe they add another receiver. They draft a receiver. But as of right now, I like this fit for Christian Kirk. So maybe I'm a sucker because I did draft him quite a bit last year.
Christian Kirk, yeah. You did.
But I do like the fit in this offense, though.
Yeah, listen. I'm starting to look at 2025. It's really early. We're in March, but I just believe that we're going to see a bounce back season from C.J. Stroud and this offense. Like I kind of believe that. I believe we're closer to the C.J. Stroud we saw 2 years ago than this past season, which wasn't good, especially in fantasy football. And he is already really cheap right now. But yeah, for Christian Kirk, I think I won't go out of my way, but for right now, he's wide receiver 59. He's going in the 11th round of drafts. So, I mean, that seems like a value. He's obviously going to go up and get, be in a better position here in the coming months. But yeah, I don't necessarily hate it. I'm not going out of my way though, just because of what we've seen from his career. But listen, Brian Thomas Jr., to the moon. I mean, he was already there, Adam, but like, come on. I know, and listen, they're gonna add more pieces because we're gonna talk. They released Evan Engram, their tight end as well, so they're gonna be adding more pieces. But let me just throw you these stats because this was Brian Thomas Jr. after Kirk and Engram had injuries at the same time, so we didn't see them on the field with BTJ. 29% target share, 40% air yard share, 8.3 utilization score, 17.6 fantasy points per game. If you want to add Gabe Davis, who was also out at the same time as these guys, it went all the way up to 25.5 points per game. So he's the alpha. He is the wide receiver one, and he's expensive. So we kind of already knew that, but just feels like it's his offense now with Trevor Lawrence.
And like you said, we already knew this.
Yeah.
None of this was going to change anything. Maybe it gave you a little bit more confidence, but I think we were both on the train for Brian Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
I had him in a couple leagues last year. Really helped me go far in one of my leagues, and we saw the double-digit targets in 6 straight games to end the season. And let's not forget, too, that was with Mac Jones. So let's hope Trevor Lawrence can be what we expected when he was drafted out of college. But the bottom line is Thomas is going to command a huge target share in this offense, regardless of what else they do. And I think it shows that the team is confident in him. And you already have to spend a high draft pick. He's generally going late first round from all of the early drafts that I've seen. And I'm in. If I'm there in the late round, I'm going to take him. I mean, he showed a lot as a rookie last year in a bad offense, mostly with a backup quarterback. It was just about him getting the opportunities because we didn't really see it for the first half of the year. Just we saw flashes, and he had a couple of big games, but we just didn't see the consistent targets, and part of that was the other guys that were there. And sometimes rookies do take some time to acclimate to the NFL. But once he did, and once the injuries occurred, they had no choice but to force him to football, and he just absolutely destroyed it.
It was insane. It was so fun to watch, and that's why we always talk about with these rookies, especially if you can, you have to wait a little bit. I know for the tight ends, it's been a little bit different these past couple seasons with like Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers. You didn't have to wait that long, but for some of these other guys, you have to be a little bit patient, and they usually get better towards the middle back half of the season, and that was exactly Brian Thomas Jr. So, one more. The last one was Evan Engram being released again. Maybe a little bit surprising, but because of his cap hit, they're going to save $5.98 million in salary cap space. So they're obviously, kind of going in different directions here with their brand new head coach in Liam Cohen. So is there any team where you think, okay, if Evan Engram lands here, I am willing to go with him in fantasy? Because he, again, hadn't been awful, for us in fantasy football, but I was looking through, the Chargers need a tight end, the Denver Broncos need a tight end, even the Indianapolis Colts have been linked to some of the incoming rookies for the NFL draft. But, Evan Ingram's interesting because we always talk about how there's this drop off in talent for tight ends, but he seems to be, closer to 15, 14, 13, 12 than he does 20.
Oh, yeah. A lot's going to depend on the landing spot because we did see him, in 2023. Look at the season he had, 114 receptions. Now, he's never going to get there again. But even the year before, in his first year with Jacksonville, he had 73. So he was a big piece of the offense for Jacksonville. And even last year, just 9 games, 64 targets. So had he played a full season, he was looking at another 120 targets. Touchdowns are just not plentiful for him. He just does not score a lot of touchdowns. He had 6 in his rookie year. He hasn't had more than 4 since. So, but in a PPR league, if he is going to get 100 targets, that's going to be valuable. I agree with the teams you mentioned. Those are the ones that came to mind. Denver, Chargers, Colts, those teams need tight ends. Denver's going to be interesting because Peyton wants that tight end.
I think the Joker role or whatever he said.
They were probably looking in the draft at a tight end. I don't know if this changes their mind here. But, yeah, a lot will depend on the landing spot for Engram because he's shown the ability to be very useful in fantasy.
Brenton Strange, tight end tight end one for Jackson, which again, I actually don't hate. And that's going to be someone that's cheap because, we talk a lot about name recognition, Travis Kelce's bag, Brenton Strange. And of course, when we get closer to August, September, in those drafts and when things get a little bit more clear, it's probably going to change a little bit. But yeah, Brenton Strange kind of achieved like the same receiving grade I was looking at on for PFF as Engram this past season. So I don't know. I don't hate that. Could be a little sleeper tight end that we need to watch out for.
Yeah, it could be for sure. Especially the state of wide receiver for them right now.
Man, yeah, we'll see what they do. But again, an interesting couple of days there for Jacksonville. There, just obviously, moving on, cutting some space, getting some money back. So they released Evan Engram. Christian Kirk traded to the Texans. So we'll follow up with that in the coming weeks here. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis, and as always, you can head to fantasylife.com. Go and check out all those articles. The running back supermodel is live from Dwayne McFarland. We've got mock drafts. We've got everything you need to know about the upcoming draft. And of course, we are tracking free agency as it's coming up. I love this time of year, Adam, because while we have no real football, which sucks, just all the trades, all the messy quotes, all the quote tweets, like the tweets from Micah Parsons, from everyone. It's just amazing. So much drama.
No, it definitely is. And of course, free agency, you're all waiting to see if your team is going to get the guy you want for fantasy. Is this player going to land in the best spot? So it is a good time. And, football is year round. Yeah, there's no games, but there's always something going on in the NFL. There's always some drama, trades, free agents, the draft. So there's always something good going on.
Yeah, and the Seahawks and Cowboys now being, it's fun. It's so fun now being laughed at. It's fine. The Cowboy. I said this to you during the break. Jerry Jones, quote, not looking at free agency as a place to fill voids. Maybe this year he's all in. Maybe this year he's just trying to make it different.
He lied last year, said they were all in and did absolutely nothing. So I'm hoping maybe it's the opposite now where he's like, we're not going to fill the voids. They did free up some cap space with restructuring of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb's contracts. I think it's like $56 million free now. So we'll see what they do with it. But yeah, it's hard to be optimistic at this point based on last offseason. So I'm not getting excited at this point.
Yeah, but they just got to pay Micah Parsons. But now that Myles Garrett got paid, cool. how much is that going to be? It's fine. Everything's fine but between us and our team. So it's great. Speaking of movement, though, for fantasy football, and depending on where Davante Adams lands, I actually do think last season I was off on Davante Adams, and I didn't want any piece of him with the Raiders. Then I got a little bit nervous when he went to the Jets, and I said, "Oh, this could actually come back to bite me." And I had 0% Davante Adams in redraft, maybe a couple in best ball, but he did not look washed in 2024. I'll just say that. He's going to be 32 by the time the season starts. He had a 30% target share, 2.07 yards per route run, and of course, like man coverage for him is the performance that we always love to see. And trade partners are always, I think we always have to look at the teams that need receivers. So if it's the Patriots, if it's the Chargers, if it's whoever else out there, but he didn't look washed. And if it ends up him following Aaron Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers goes to not the Seahawks, let's say the Tennessee Titans, I don't hate that either because he just force-fed him the ball. It's just everything. He targeted him 112 times, which was the third highest in the NFL. So I think depending on where he lands, Davante Adams could still have some juice left for us where we look at him in fantasy football and say, all right, no, I don't mind taking him at this price.
Yeah, last year, same with me. Going into the year, he was going early second round. And I didn't like him in Vegas because of the quarterback situation, even though he was projected to get a lot of targets. And then even the trade to the Jets, it wasn't great initially. Like he started a little slowly. You had Garrett Wilson there and you wondered, okay, is this going to happen? But he had missed some games with injury. And yeah, he had a rapport with Aaron Rodgers, but different offense. Years later, it was going to take some time. But once they got into a groove, Adams was just getting double-digit targets on a weekly basis and put up massive numbers. So if you were able to draft him and overcome the slow start and hold him on your roster and the rest of your team was good enough, he might have been able to help you win a championship last year. So, yeah, a lot. I guess there is something left for him, right? I mean,
Yeah, a
after
little
what he did
juice.
this past
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
and a lot will depend on where he lands. What's the fit, and is it going to be Aaron Rodgers and him again for another reunion? I don't know,
I don't
but
know.
what about Adams in Green Bay going back?
I liked it actually. I did a video last week where I said I don't mind this. Like it's kind of funny, saying,
It
oh
would be
well, let's
hilarious.
it would be hilarious, but that they need something in there. Like Jaden Reed for all we talk about with him for fantasy is solid, but the Christian Watson injury was late in the season, so he's gonna have a tough time coming back from that. Like Romeo Dobbs, that's why I said I saw a trade offer, written out where it was DK Metcalf sent to Green Bay for that second round pick, and they give back Romeo Dobbs. Not that I would like that, but they need something over there. I also like Devontae Adams with the Chargers. Like I would not mind Devontae Adams.
We're just going to link every receiver to the Chargers
no, it's true.
at this point, right?
It's the Chargers, it's the Patriots, it's any team. The Commanders, if they hadn't gone out and gotten Deebo Samuel, we would still be talking like, well, they need some kind of. That's the funny part. Add any team that needs receiver help, they're gonna try and go after a DK Metcalf, and they're probably gonna try and go after a Devontae Adams. And that's the one thing is that if he's waiting for, that relationship, I guess, ended fine with between the two of them, right? Targeted 112 times, the third most in the NFL. So they're probably still friends. And he's like, well, wherever you go, I'll go because I'm just going to be force fed the ball. Like he's fine with it. If it's the Titans, then yeah, I'd still probably keep drafting Devontae Adams.
Yeah, you're saying if Aaron Rodgers were with
If Aaron
him, right?
Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers is there, and then like you said, add him to Green Bay, add him to the Chargers. Like I'd probably have more shares in 2025 than I did last year.
Yeah, Adams actually hinted about Green Bay during the Kay Adams show. His quote was, he said, this is his quote, it's looking right now like they, meaning the Packers, might need some receiver help in one way or the other. Maybe a veteran or something. We'll see.
That would be hilarious. I mean, we wouldn't even have to do the jersey edits.
That's true.
Just be like, he's back. Yeah, there we go. I wouldn't hate it. He's going to be a cheap option. So no group of wide receivers had more total drops. That's my favorite stat right now than the Packers in 2024. They had 25. So that was something.
They have been doing this even during the tenure of Aaron Rodgers. They never added a receiver. And Rodgers was vocal about it, the draft with Justin Jefferson. Remember all those receivers in that draft? And they kept passing over them. And at some point, you got to get your quarterback an elite target. The group of receivers for Green Bay is fine, but you need to get that one guy. We've seen it with Buffalo too. These teams that are just on the verge, some of these teams, they need that number one target. So in a big spot, you have a guy to make a play. Kansas City hasn't really needed that because they have Patrick Mahomes. But Philadelphia has it with A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm. The Bills, for what it's worth, I said would be fun for DK Metcalf, but they won't do it. They gave Khalil Shakir some more money. It just feels like they're not. It feels like they're not going to do it, which I believe for the Bills is what they need. And we talked about that all Super Bowl with those all the Bills legends that came in and talked with us on the show. Like they said, what do they need to win? And they all almost said some kind of wide receiver help. But it just feels like they're not going to do it. So Green Bay, listen, I'm with you. And at some point, I think it was 2 years ago, they had the youngest. I mean, they had like the youngest team in the league too, with average age. So you can look at the drops, you can look at everything else, but Green Bay definitely needs some help. And I think it'd be fun with the Chargers. Now, I do think I've said this too. That's why I'm not out on Ladd McConkey, but I want to see who they bring in there because I think it's interesting where he's going in drafts right now. And it's really early. I understand that. But if they go out and get a DK Metcalf, that's going to hurt him. I know people are saying, well, it's going to open even more things up for Ladd McConkey, which I could see that part of it. But I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to draft Ladd McConkey to see what they do in free agency and the draft.
Yeah, my guess is McConkey will still be fine, but if you get a guy in there like Metcalf and you trade for him, give up a draft pick, and then sign him to an extension, you got to get him the football. You're not going to do that if you don't have big plans for him. So McConkey could still be good, but maybe not at the draft cost right now.
Wide receiver 11. So
that's where he's going right now?
Yes.
Ooh,
yes.
That's an underdog, right?
Yep. Which I
Wow.
understand they push the wide receivers up, but even then, I mean, that's after Achan, Genty, McCaffrey, Henry Go. He's going as pick 19. It's pricey for Lad right now. That's all
I
I'm
would
saying.
not have guessed that. I like him a lot, but I guess when you look at it though,
He's going around. So the guys
so
ahead of
wait,
him,
what wide receiver off the board?
11.
Oh, okay.
11 is
I guess
I thought he'd be 15.
it's not that crazy though, right? Like
No,
my
it's
initial
not
reaction
because
was yes, but when you look at the landscape now, and it's going to change though
Mhm.
if they bring in Metcalf in, you got to lower him.
Oh, for sure. That's why I'm saying I'm waiting to see what they do. If it's just, getting one of the wide receivers out of the draft, then I'm like, okay, then they really do look at he's the wide receiver, he is the guy, but wide receiver 11. So AJ Brown ahead of him, Drake London ahead of him, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. That's where we get into the Amon Ra, Nico Collins. Guys behind him though, right now, T. Higgins, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore.
Right now, you can make a case for McConkey over all of them. Maybe you want to put Higgins higher. But JSM, we probably would have said yes. But now with the quarterback situation, well, right now, would you take JSN over McConkey?
Oh, it'd be close. It'd be
Yeah.
really close. I now it depends on the quarterback for them. I'm
Yeah.
a little bit nervous about it. So I'd probably stick with Lad.
Yeah, you know what? He's in the right range. It
Yeah.
seems high,
Isn't that
but
crazy though?
it is because you know what it is. Your initial reaction is no way, but then when you look at the receivers around him, you're like, okay, I could see taking him over many of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like, oh, it's high. And then I just want to see, that these are the couple weeks where if you're drafting right now, you know the risk that you're taking on.
I think.
They know that they have to wait.
I think if you didn't have McConkey last year, or you didn't follow him close, you don't realize how good he was to close the year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They might look at him and say, "Oh, Lad McConkey, I don't want that." But he had a really his season. I mean, his season was so good. We don't need to tell everyone that. But yeah, wide receiver 11 off the board right now for good old Lad McConkey. All I ask is before you send me Seahawks memes, you let me have my Folgers coffee in the morning. Before I was getting texts this morning, Adam. I just strays about the Seahawks before I even woke up. This can't be my life. It was yours. I can't do this.
It's not fun, I'm telling you. When you become the jokes and the Seahawks right now, it's been a rough week for Seahawks fans. So now you know pretty much what I've endured for 20 years. I mean, yes, the Cowboys have had some good
20
seasons.
years.
The Cowboys have had some good, actually more. Was it 30? Yeah. Oh, boy.
I don't know. This past
It's getting
one,
close
though,
to 30.
I mean, your head coach, the way that went down was
Yeah, see, the thing with the Cowboys, like at least in recent years, they've been a very good team. They've won the division. Everyone waits for them to collapse in the playoffs. So that's when you get bombarded with the texts.
Yeah.
But last year was just, a disaster from the start. So things have been changed a little bit.
I can't imagine your phone during that Packers Cowboys game at home. I just can't even imagine what that was like for you. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Apologies.
the thing
That's
was
fine.
that game was over like right away.
Oh, yeah, you knew it.
Like you could tell, you're like, oh boy,
Yep.
they are not showing up today.
Yeah, that was bad. And it looks like even worse is that, if you're not going out in free agency like your own Jerry Jones says, latest mock draft at fantasylife.com, Thor has Ashton Genty going 6 to the Raiders. And you and I have talked about this about, hey, could Ashton Genty, I feel like he would have to fall to get to you because he'd have to go through the Raiders. He'd have to go through the Chicago Bears, who also need a running back. So, Las Vegas now getting Geno Smith, they've secured their veteran quarterback and now going out and getting the best running back that we've seen in a long time. Thor has said that he's better, in his opinion, he's a better prospect than Bijan Robinson. I mean, that's huge for them and for fantasy.
Yeah, I guess that is a direction they could go in now. I mean, maybe they could go wide receiver as well, but they certainly could use a running back. So they are a possibility. You mentioned the Bears is the other.
Yeah.
And even if I wonder, knowing the Cowboys, they might even pass on him if he's there at 12. They have a
Really?
lot of needs. Yeah, I
Well,
think
they do. I'll give you that. They do have a lot of needs.
that offensive line is not as good as it was. Everyone thinks of the Cowboys, oh, really good offensive line, and then Zach Martin retired too, so they definitely need some help on
And
the
I
offensive
and I
line.
will say I might not hold my breath for Genty for them because it's such a deep. We're going to talk about this. It's a deep running back class, so that's what makes it a little bit better from years past. It is a really deep running back class. You could get some really good guys later on. And as always, fantasylife.com have to point you in that direction. All of our articles are 100% free, and same with our newsletter. So make sure you go and sign up for that. But if you need to know anything about the NFL draft, if you need to know anything about free agency and getting the rookie supermodel as well, that is live from Dwayne McFarland. It is all there at fantasylife.com. So let's get into it, Adam. We've got a lot to talk about here. Let's start with the Chiefs because there's two pieces of news here with the Chiefs. So over the weekend, we heard that maybe there was something going on with Xavier Worthy, that he was, going to be arrested. There has been an update that he won't be charged in this alleged assault case. So he was arrested on Friday night for an alleged assault in Texas where he was living. And it looks like for now that there are going to be no charges for him. But when that was happening, the day after that, this was Saturday, then Hollywood Brown, it was announced that he's going to return to the Chiefs on a 1-year deal. So he's returning on a 1-year deal worth up to $11 million. That was per Adam Schefter. I got a little bit nervous thinking that this meant that Xavier Worthy, maybe this was going to be a little bit worse. But it looks like Xavier Worthy, again, won't be charged in this alleged assault case. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But Hollywood Brown is coming back, 27 years old, joined them, we remember, last season as a free agent. And then he suffered the sternoclavicular. Do you see what? Wow, look at me. Or a shoulder injury. Yeah, wow, I know it's my other profession. Or we can just say a shoulder injury, which was the first game of their preseason opener, which was super disappointing. So I said that I actually wouldn't mind a return from Hollywood Brown just to see the connection a little bit more, the deep ball from Patrick Mahomes if they let him kind of go out there and do that. So you're bringing back another receiver that we saw none of last year. I think he was able to come back in the final 2 games, but I don't count that for anything. So there you go.
Yeah, it looked early in preseason. We were hearing there was a good connection between him and Mahomes in camp. And unfortunately, we never really saw it pan out because even when he did play in his 5 games, he never had more than 6.6 yards per target. So they were not getting him the ball deep. It was a lot of short throws. So look, health has always been an issue for him. You'd figure with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, maybe he'd finally come through because we've seen him flash the talent. It's just he's had a hard time staying on the field. And then when you look at the scenario now for the Chiefs with the receivers, Rashee Rice coming back from injury, Xavier Worthy had the great rookie year, Kelsey is coming back. Where does that leave Brown for fantasy? So it's probably better for real life because we did see the numbers with Brown just being on the field helped that offense because you had to account for him and his speed. Even though they didn't really take those shots deep, you still had to worry about Brown as a threat on the field because of the speed. But, he's had 1,000-yard season, and with all these receivers here now, it's just hard to think that he's going to get a decent amount of targets to be someone that you can count on every week.
Yeah. 2 regular season games, 9 receptions, 91 yards, like you said. And then in the postseason, 13 targets, 3rd most on the team, I will say, for what that's worth. But yeah, I'm with you. I think for Hollywood, he wasn't crazy expensive last season, but he wasn't cheap by any means. So this season I can expect him, at least from what I remember.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't he going 8th, 9th round before the injury? Because... Well, let me see. So that was before, though, Rashee Rice really moved up.
Yes.
Because people were worried about a possible suspension, and then word dropped. Or as we got closer to the regular season, people like, oh, I guess he's not getting suspended. Let me move him up. If I'm not, I think Brown was going 8th, 9th round.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Before the injury. But
I don't... Rashee Rice.
Yeah. So if Rice is healthy and good to go, and he's another guy that we have to figure out what's going on with his legal situation.
People are forgetting
Worthy.
That.
Yeah. So, but say he's back healthy and he's good to go. Xavier Worthy coming off his rookie year. like I just where does Brown fit in? I mean, as far as target share, and Kelsey's still there. Again, I don't think Kelsey's going to command a huge target share, and he might be a guy where they ease him through the regular season, right? Once again, hey, let's get to the playoffs. That's when we need you. So that's the problem. Is like, what is the target share going to be? Because you got to think if Rice and Worthy are there, they're going to be more of a priority.
For sure, definitely. And I think he's probably going to be better in best ball for people than in redraft, because trying to figure out, that's always just such a headache, trying to figure out when to start, when not, unless you get him, set him on your bench, and we never want injuries. But if it does happen, and by the way, I do say this, I mean, people are forgetting about Rashee Rice's impending suspension. That feels like it's going to happen, or it didn't happen last year, but we can't forget that there might be a suspension for Rashee Rice. We don't know the time frame, maybe 2 games, maybe more, but that feels like it's going to happen coming into this season. So we just have to, wait on that and watch it. But yeah, Hollywood Brown right now going pick around 138 in underdogs. So that puts him at the middle of the 12th round for him, which again, he's probably going to be better in best ball than any other format that you're playing, because it's going to be so difficult to know.
And that's a crutch people use for a lot of players. But in this situation, it's definitely true, because there will be some weeks where he puts up 80, 90 yards and a touchdown, but trying to figure out when it's going to be with this entire team healthy, not going to be easy. So at least in best ball, you'll have those weeks where he goes off and he's in your starting lineup.
Yeah, exactly. So again, looking like for right now, we'll keep an eye on it that Xavier Worthy won't be charged in this case that happened over the weekend. But the Chiefs are bringing back Hollywood Brown, 1-year deal, worth up to $11 million. So he is coming back for them. Next up, let's talk a couple tight ends re-signing. So we've got tight end Mike Gesicki with the Bengals on a 3-year deal, $25.5 million. That includes $12 million in year 1. He's going to be 29 years old. And then we've got tight end Zach Ertz re-signing with the Washington Commanders, a little bit less money. So you've got 1 year with Zach Ertz for $6.25 million, max value of $9 million for him as well. The Commanders are bringing everyone. They're trying to just run it back at him. They've got Zach Ertz. They're going out and getting Deebo Samuel. They brought back Bobby Wagner again for them. So feels like they're really trying to run it back for us. I guess Zach Ertz in fantasy was the one that we paid more attention to towards the end there than Gesicki. I was hoping they would go out. Weren't they linked to Kyle Pitts? Wouldn't that have been fun to get a Kyle Pitts to the Bengals? That's exactly what I wanted. So we could sit here and say, well, this could be the year for Kyle Pitts. But, it's a deep draft class for tight ends. So I was, Mike Gesicki doesn't really move the needle for us, but I guess Zach Ertz, between the two of them, does a little bit more for fantasy.
Look, Gesicki is been a tease for most of his career. We keep waiting for him to produce, and it really doesn't happen. He had a decent year, 65 catches for a tight end. He played all 17 games, though, only 2 touchdowns. And with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, it's difficult to really cover out a huge role. And you just saw the inconsistency. 22 of his targets came in the last 2 weeks of the season. So there were other weeks where you couldn't use him. So yeah, he's tough. And Ertz had a really good year.
He did.
They really didn't have the receivers, so that opened things up to get more targets, and he became a reliable one for Jaden Daniels. We saw in that postseason game against Philly, he had 16 targets, but down the stretch too, he started finding the end zone. He had 6 of his touchdowns came in the last 7 games. He had 7 touchdowns. 6 of the 7 came towards the end of the year. So, but the thing with him is he does nothing after the catch, nothing at all. So it's basically catch, get tackled, fall down. So you are reliant on him getting those targets. And so, again, not an exciting option, though, for fantasy.
Did he finish as the tight end 10 in PPR points per game?
That goes to show you how bad tight
I'm looking,
end
is. And I wanted to check another computer to make sure.
You know why, though? It's pretty simple, okay? You show me any tight end that gets 7 touchdowns and 60 receptions, you're going to be up there. That's the
crazy.
bar for the position.
Because I remember we did a roundtable that you can find at fantasylife.com. And the question was, is Zach Ertz still a viable fantasy option? And I was like, no, no. I mean, in my opinion, no, but I guess it just depends on where he goes. I think he ranks closer to tight end 20 than he does anywhere else, kind of close, especially like you said, when you're adding weapons like Deebo Samuel. We can discuss that all we want, but that's, you take a little bit more away from Zach Ertz. And while it was great, he's going to be 35 in November this year. But yeah, finishing as the tight end 10 in PPR points.
Is that total game. Points? Oh, yeah, I see points per game. I see 12.
Oh, 12? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, that includes, it includes Evan Engram, who he played enough.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
But that's still very high.
I mean, it's just nuts.
You wouldn't have guessed that before the year. So, but you also have to, he was ahead of Hawkinson. We expect Hawkinson to be back up there. Dalton Kincaid, and I know Matthew Berry had in his notes that someone from Buffalo said Kincaid wasn't healthy at all. Like the whole year he was playing through injuries. So
I love when we get that after.
Yeah,
are you going to get,
it happens all the time.
Back
I know.
Kincaid,
I know.
Don't do it. No.
Well, I'm not going to do it to the point last year where as early as I took him, but
we always get those notes. Someone who was it a quarterback that had, or I can't even remember. There's been so many where they've said I'm not healthy.
Every sport, but especially in football. Yeah, especially in football because the toughness and guys like I always try to figure out, what do you want? Do you want the guy to be, from a fantasy perspective, you probably want him to sit and get better. We want, just go out there and play. But if you are not 100%, if you're dealing with an injury that is limiting your ability to play football, it's going to influence the stats. You saw it with Kincaid. I mean, we were like, well, at least he was out there. Well, no. At least if he's not out there, we can go get someone else. Yes, tight end is a disaster, but yeah, we hear these stories every year, and it's just frustrating because – but it did get to a point, though, where I gave up on Kincaid. That's the thing. Yeah, you just saw it, and I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. So he definitely was not in my starting lineup for the last 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season because it got to a point where you're like, yeah, something's not right here. It's not happening. You got to move on. It doesn't matter how high you drafted him, and that's something you have to learn. If you're just playing fantasy like your first few years, like, well, I drafted this guy in the 5th round. I got to stick with him. No, doesn't matter. Once the season starts, that draft cost means nothing.
I think that's the toughest part of fantasy for a lot of people is having to, and I do the same thing. I mean, Deebo Samuel for me last year was difficult, but at some point you had to look at him and say, it's not consistent. I can't keep rolling the dice. I want to put a player in there that's, averaging a little bit more and that I know is going to give me, a better opportunity to score 10 fantasy points than what you got with Deebo. But I think that's one of the tougher parts of fantasy for everyone, Adam, is just figuring out when it's time to say, all right, just because I drafted this guy in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever round it was, like I need to move on and I need to put him on my bench and just go a different direction. It's difficult.
It's more difficult for a guy like Dalton Kincaid at the tight end position because people were drafting him in the 5th, 6th round. So when you draft a tight end that early, you're generally saying, I believe this guy is going to be my tight end 1 all year long. I don't need to take a backup that early. And in some leagues, maybe you didn't. If you only had 16 roster spots, you might have said, I'm not taking a backup tight end. Because if you have the belief of taking a tight end around 5 or 6, why do you need another one? You're basically saying, I'm investing in this guy. He's going to be my tight end. And that's what makes it more challenging because now you're stuck with him. And by the time you're ready to go, okay, time to move on, what's on the waiver wire? Because people who were searching for a tight end early in the season or were rolling with 2, they were picking up those tight ends. And maybe you got fortunate and you picked up Geno Smith before he went off and you had him with Kincaid. If not, it could have been a struggle all year at that position. And that's why if you are going to take a tight end early, you got to hit on them because if you don't, it just creates a lot of instability across your roster.
So you're taking Travis Kelce in 2025?
Hell no. Not drafting him.
I knew I knew you were. I just know. Like Kyle Pitts is a no for me. I don't know.
It's tough because like last year, like I took Trey McBride in several leagues and that was great. Took Kincaid, that was terrible. Kittle, I did not have this year for the first time, and he was the cheapest price, which hurt. I had a little Bowers. Who else did I have? Ferguson, that hurt. Yeah, because I thought he was going to have a good year, and then he got hurt.
Because they had
and
no
Dak
receivers.
And Dak got hurt, and he got hurt, so that was pretty bad. But yeah, you see on the high end when you hit, it's great. When you take Trey McBride early, you have a big advantage over everyone. But when you take a Ferguson or Kincaid, it's a problem. So yeah, if there's never any 100% guarantee, but you have to feel really good if you're going to take that tight end early because you need him to hit.
Yeah. I mean, there's 4 elite tight ends. I mean, I want to put Sam Laporta in that because he had a good end to the season, but you've got Laporta, you've got McBride, you've got Brock Bowers, and you can throw, I want to throw Kittle in there.
Yeah.
Like those top
I think
4.
You can.
And then to be honest, there's a drop, right? Mark Andrews, hopefully, but it was scary at the beginning of the season. A lot of people, I think, were dropping Mark Andrews, depending on your league size.
No, they were.
League size, like they were dry. And then listen, okay, that makes sense. Like we're not going to sit here and say, well, that was a dumb move because he wasn't doing anything. TJ Hawkinson coming off injury, like he's probably next. And then you've got Jonnu Smith, David Njoku, Tucker Kraft. I mean, there's just a huge drop off between the top 3, top 4 down to the next tier.
Does that make you want to invest in one of those tight ends early?
Yeah. You know what I've been seeing a lot is a lot, especially, it's going to be so interesting with Brock Bowers this year because he's going at the turn. Some people are taking him in the first round, taking him at pick 12. And listen, and that's where I'm like, oh, I had a lot of George Kittle last year, but he was going in the 5th round. You're not going to get that anymore this year. But to get the cheapest one probably out of all those 4 is going to be Laporta, and he's not even like he'll go in the 3rd round, 4th round. Like it's not usually my draft strategy to take a tight end that early, but there is, I don't know, Adam, looking at it this year with the drop off, there is a lot that I'm looking at saying, okay, maybe I do want a few, pieces of Brock, Kittle, Laporta, McBride, but you're going to have to pay up for them.
The problem is you had, as good as Bowers was last year, if you look at points per game, there were so many running backs and receivers that finished higher than him. So you have to ask yourself, are you okay passing up on players that are going to put up way more points just to get what we perceive as the scarce position? And it's difficult because if Bowers doesn't perform to that level or misses time due to injury, that's a big problem. Because again, if you're taking Bowers that early, you're not taking a backup tight end early. You're just not. It makes no sense. You're saying you're all in on Bowers. Like, why would you take Bowers that early and then take another tight end around 9?
You're not taking another tight end. I wouldn't take another tight end the rest of the draft if we're going to be totally honest.
If you're 16 roster spots, no. Yes. If you're in a league with 20 roster spots, I would take a second tight end. You have the roster space to do it.
Yeah, depending on, of course, the roster space here. But I don't know. You've got Brock Bowers, like I said, going. I think he's going to continue to rise, and he'll go towards the turn. You've got Trey McBride in the 3rd. You've got George Kittle. Surprisingly, actually, right now, I thought he was going to be a little bit higher, but he's going in the 5th round, and then you've got Sam Laporta in the 6th. But we're in March. That's going to change. Like I see Trey McBride getting into the 2nd round, maybe the end of the 2nd round, and then Kittle going up to the 3rd or 4th.
You think Kittle will go to the 3rd?
No, 4th. 4th. I'll take that back. 4th round, and then Sam Laporta in the 5th. Yeah,
the splits without Debo and Ayuk, Kittle's gone off, and you saw what he did last year.
And we don't know. Like we haven't gotten an update yet on Brandon Ayuk coming back. Like just from his injury. That was a brutal injury. So I could see him going in the 4th, and then you push Sam Laporta up one more into the 5th. Maybe Sam Laporta is this year's George Kittle.
Could be. Again, people who got burned by him last year, they're not going to go back. Like clearly, and I think you and I were on the same page last year. We didn't want Laporta. We just thought he was, not that we didn't like him, he was overpriced. You were paying for the touchdowns in his rookie year. And
he was tight end 1 off the board.
Yeah.
And then it was Kelsey. Oh, Brutal.
But Laporta did finish this season really strong. I guess the question is, again, with the change in offensive coordinator, what does that do for this offense, which is probably why he's going in that range and because of the way he finished last year.
Yeah.
The total season.
Yeah, I don't care. I might actually go back to Laporta now. I mean, that's cheap. 6th round. I mean, that's
sixth round. I'm interested.
Fifth round. I'm interested, to be totally honest with you. And then, like you said, depends on your roster size when you go and get a second tight end, when you get one of those elite guys, when you don't. But yeah, it'll be. Listen, it's those 4, and then you go down a long list. Like Hawkinson's next, Mark Andrews, Jonnu Smith, David Njoku, Travis Kelce in the 10th. I don't know, Adam. You could interest me in Travis Kelce in the 10th round. I'm just going to say it. I know you won't for you. 10th round? And then just go get another one. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're not going to say it. That's fine. I'll get you to say you'll draft Travis Kelce one time during this offseason. Oh, new White Lotus coming out.
Are you
Adam,
caught up?
I need something to happen in that show. I'm actually, I don't even think it's a hot take to say I'm bored. I need something to happen.
I thought last week's episode was a little slow.
The whole thing's been slow. Nothing's happened. Usually by now, something crazy has gone on. So I think they set it up for this episode, but I need something to happen because I am a little bit bored.
You didn't like episode 1?
No.
Oh, wow.
Well, I get, sure. Okay. Yes. But I knew we were going to get no answers during that. So I don't know. Like the snakes were fine, whatever. But like, come on, I need some drama. The NFL is the only one giving drama right now.
That's true. Well, look, hopefully tonight it picks up and we do get some of that action. But
what time does it start? 6?
9 Eastern.
8,
but
9? Yeah, 6.
So do you watch it like live?
I'll watch it once it drops. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I probably will not watch it until after the Cavaliers-Bucks game. That's at 8.
Okay. What time is that?
8 Eastern. So once that's over, then I'll go watch it. So like last week, I didn't watch it till like midnight or 12:30 because there must have been a late game. There must have been a late game last week.
And you didn't think to yourself, well, I could go to bed right now, but I'll watch White Lotus.
No. Oh, forget it. I mean, I was staring at my phone last night when it went from 2 to 3 a.m. I was looking at my phone. I was like, okay.
Adam, what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
I know, daylight
it's pretty
savings,
bad.
losing an hour.
Well, for you, it's even worse.
Oh, it was awful. Yeah, all day yesterday. I was like, okay, well, really, it's 8:30 p.m. now, but actually, it's 9:30, so I really need to be in bed. It was so bad. But yeah, okay. So
at least you made it.
Happen.
At least you made it on time today for the show.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's my worst fear. I actually think I had a nightmare about that, where I just didn't show up, and then I thought it was.
Have you ever showed up late to a radio show?
No, never.
Okay.
Unless it's maybe if my Wi-Fi, when I first moved in here, the Wi-Fi wasn't very good, so maybe because of that. But no. And you come in here at like 2 minutes beforehand, so I'm always like, God, is Adam gonna show up? Is it happening? Is this the day? You freak me out.
But it has happened to me before a long time ago. Yeah, the alarm clock didn't go off, and that was when I had to go into studio. Good thing I had a co-host that could cover.
Oh my gosh! Don't do that to me.
I'm
bringing our producers on. I'll be like, let's talk, guys.
Well, okay. Am I gonna wake up late for a 1 p.m. Eastern show or 11 a.m. Eastern?
Maybe
11 a.m. maybe,
honest,
right?
Maybe.
If I'm sleeping till if I don't go to sleep one night till 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that's why
I don't do that anymore. I used to do that a lot. Like now, the latest is 4 a.m. and that doesn't happen as much.
Insane. No, you need help.
It's generally 2 to 3 a.m. right now.
Again, that's insane. That's not normal.
Well, for you go to bed at 8.
No, I know, but for anyone, that's not normal. It's just not. We have to start getting back into this and seeing how we can help your sleep habits, because that's just not normal. That's crazy. I have no way to get from this to running back rookie supermodel. Guys that aren't putting you to sleep. There we go. Bang. I'll cut for myself. That's fine.
A lot of these guys, the guys at the top, are definitely not putting me to sleep.
No, and again, that's why the thing of, looking at the Cowboys in the draft, that clap was so bad, by the way. Oh my gosh, it was so awkward. I apologize for that. Anyway, the clap that I did was little clap.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. The Cowboys, though, like when we talk about these teams that need running back help, if you don't get the Ashton Genty, who is obviously, I mean, he is the tier one, he is the high end running back one prospect. Like I've said for Thor Nystrom, he believes that he's a better prospect than Bijan Robinson coming in. His supermodel rating, by the way, and again, this is when I say supermodel rating, this is Dwayne McFarland's rookie supermodel ranking that's out at fantasylife.com, so you can go and check it out. But he's fourth best since 2017 when this started happening. So I mean, the expected draft pick, it's gone anywhere from 10 to 6 with the Las Vegas Raiders, but his strengths, I mean, he is one of the most dominant running backs that we've seen for college. He averaged 185 rushing yards per game, which was the highest mark in Dwayne McFarland's database. The underlying stats kind of prove, like, if people want to say, well, that was a fluke, we have to look at the level of competition that he was at over there. Like, you can look at that and say that, okay, but for his PFF run grade, 94.8, which was the 100th percentile, yards after contact, 4.8 per attempt, which was 80th percentile, and then missed tackles force, 0.38 per attempt, which was also 95th percentile. So for Ashton Genty, he is the guy that you want to go and get. If you want to say the strength of schedule, I think that's the only thing you can look at with Boise State, is saying, all right, well, who did they play against? That made Ashton Genty look that much better. But to me, Adam, if you're looking at Dynasty, he's the 101. Anyone getting him in the draft, it just feels like it's a no-brainer. That's why. But again, this is a deep running back class. So when we talk about some of these other guys, it's okay. But Ashton Genty is the guy you want to be going out and getting.
Yeah, it's clear, and you just see the comparisons to previous rookies, and that's the other thing too. We have seen rookie running backs come into the NFL and exceed immediately, and that's going to be the case with Genty, which is why you're going to see him go late first, early second round. The landing spot might move him up a little bit, but we've already seen it. Barkley came in and was great immediately. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan was good, maybe not what we had hoped for. He had the better year last year, but Genty is in that class, so he's going to be going early, and you can't be afraid. I think there's some people like, oh, it's a rookie, never played in the NFL. We've seen these elite running backs, they come in and they take off immediately, and that's going to be the case with Genty.
Yeah, it's just a no-brainer. Everyone knows going into it who Ashton Genty is. And so let me just say this stat before going to the other running backs here. Since 2017, only 5 other running backs have posted a supermodel rating of 85 plus, averaging 19.3 fantasy points per game over their first 3 seasons. And they all posted top 6 finishes. The names are Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Just to give everyone an idea, like, you can look at the board right now and say, there is no way in hell I'm taking Ashton Genty at RB. He's going as RB5. But listen, there's a reason why he's going there. There's a reason why you need to look at him. I think by the time August comes around, Adam, he's going to be going in the first round. Like, he's right outside. He's at pick 13 right now, and I think he jumps over Achane and he'll be going in the first round. He should be going there, and it's no-brainer. But right now, RB5, you've got Achane ahead of him, and then Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley. That's where it is right now.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and especially obviously once he lands on a team, and if it's a good fit, then people will be even more excited and maybe push him up even more.
Yeah. The other two, because I can't give away everything in the supermodel. You guys have to go and check it out at fantasylife.com. But there were 2 actual other running backs in this tier 2. Obviously, Ashton Genty is in a tier of his own. Low end RB1 prospects, and that is Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina. He has a supermodel rating of 77, which was 16th since 2017. And then you also have Travion Henderson, which his supermodel rating 76, which is 19th since 2017. He's out of Ohio State. And I like both of these guys. And that's why, we're here to say, if your team doesn't go and get a running back first in the first round, like, don't look around and say, oh man, this sucks. Who are they going to go and get? Because this is a deep running back class. And so for Amari and Hampton, when you're in the same class as Ashton Genty, Adam, it's a little bit difficult, but he does stand out. He's got really good speed score rating in this. He's got a good film rating. His production rating's really good as well. I think the weakness that you look at was really that maybe not as good in the passing game. So that's that's one thing when you're looking at your dynasty drafts and you say, well, I want a pass catching running back. That was probably the one weakness that I saw from him. And then Travion Henderson, he's also just amazing out of Ohio State.
Yeah, and it is a deep running back class, and we just don't see running backs drafted early anymore. It's rare to see a running back go in round one. That's how good Ashton Genty is, but there's plenty of running backs that are going to go later in this draft, and it's all about landing spot and how they fit in. We see with running backs all the time. There are certain teams and systems that doesn't matter who the running back you plug in, they excel, and we'll definitely find some values later on in the drafts. Yes, Genty's going to get all the attention, and he should, but these two guys can also be good, especially on the right team.
Exactly. And Travion Henderson, let me just say, because he's got good strengths, right? Like they're not elite. There's not elite aspects when you look at his profile, but to give you the fantasy outlook from Dwayne McFarland, like supermodel comps, this is one of my favorite things that Dwayne does. The whole thing is amazing. And again, you just have to go and check it out because there's just so much work that gets put into this. But his closest comps are DeAndre Swift, Achane, and then Jonathan Brooks. So those are Travion Henderson's comps. And again, this is the rookie supermodel. The running backs are here, and you're going to get, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the quarterbacks in the coming weeks. But that is live at fantasylife.com. So make sure you go and check that out. Adam, we've got, talking about drama. We want a little bit more drama. Well, Matthew Berry has rumors that he heard while he was at the combine. He wrote up 25 rumors that he heard. I've got a handful of them that I want to talk to you about because if they come true, it has huge fantasy implications. So we're going to go through some of these rumors coming up. Vibes are immaculate here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam Ronis with you. Fantasy Life on Sirius XM, Fantasy Sports Radio. Going through some rumors because if White Lotus isn't doing it for you right now, we've got drama in the NFL. We've got trades, we've got tweets, we've got quote tweets, whatever you need for the drama. We've got it right here. Not between you and I though, Adam. We're good. No drama here. Besides
Not yet.
Our team sucking. That's fine. It's the only drama. Ugh. I can't even actually think about it.
Misery loves company.
I sat on the couch for 2 hours just thinking and scrolling and kind of going through every scenario. There was nothing, no TV, nothing. And I was just like, oh, this is just awful. This is just awful. We'll see. They've got to have an answer soon. I mean, next coming days, right? That's when I think I still stand by thinking that Sam Darnold's like the first domino for the quarterbacks to fall. So if it's Darnold for them, like that's coming in a couple of days. And I still do believe that Sam Darnold will be the first one. And then everything else falls into place with Russell Wilson and with Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers, all those guys. So, God, makes me sick. Makes me sick to myself. It's fine. That's why we have all the drama. But Matthew Berry did write, all the things that he heard from the NFL Combine here, and I just wanted to bring up a couple because they are still relevant here for us in fantasy. And I did want to start with, since free agency is coming up in a few days, Chris Godwin back to Tampa seems pretty locked in. It feels like, at least that was the rumor that Matthew was kind of going off of, which is that Godwin will kind of come back and be good for Tampa Bay. We've talked about him a lot on this show because I remember you had a lot of Chris Godwin last year, and he was on pace to just have a huge 2024 season before that injury kind of took him out for the rest of the year. But I like this move. I know that we've talked also about Jalen McMillan, and I still think he's going to be a solid choice in drafts just in case, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're going to be another year older. We don't want injuries, but he kind of did prove that he could pick up some of that workload if either of them went down. So Chris Godwin back to Tampa. I always thought that this was the smart move for them. So if it happens, we'll have to wait and see. But that was something that Matthew heard.
Yeah, it would be the best fit. And yeah, Godwin was off to an insane start last year. It was looking great. 62 targets in 7 games, 50 receptions, 576 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He had 5 touchdowns in 7 games. His career high was 9. Yeah, I've always been a big Chris Godwin fan, and I liked him last year, especially because he was cheaper than Mike Evans. It was the opposite the previous year. Evans wound up having the better year, and I thought last year was going to be reverse with Godwin having the better year, and it was on pace for that until that injury. So, yeah, you want to make sure, obviously, that he comes back healthy. But if Tampa Bay, who knows him best, and Matthew mentions there's interest in the market, and he should get multiple years, instead of a 1-year prove-it deal. So if Tampa Bay is going to do that, that should give us enough confidence that he can bounce back. And we know Baker Mayfield has a good rapport with him. And you don't have to worry. You only have to worry about health in that situation. Okay, is he healthy? And if they are going to pay him that money, that should lead you to believe they're confident. And I would expect him to go out there and have a good year. And basically Tampa Bay essentially bringing back the whole squad again. Now, the offensive coordinator changed it again. But some people worried about that last year. And it wasn't a factor. Even with all the injuries, Baker Mayfield still performed. So Godwin going back to a familiar situation, I think, would be best, and it would be good for his fantasy value.
That's why I think, with what Sam Darnold showed us the past 2 seasons, because that was always the question. It was like, oh, well, now he's losing Dave Canales, and we don't know. And he was undrafted last year in some of those situations. You could pick Baker Mayfield up off the waiver wire. So I think he's proven enough to everyone that even though they promoted, I think, Josh Brizard, I believe is how they say their offensive coordinator's name. Even though they promoted him from within, he knows the system, all that. Liam Cohen's gone now. It's just one of those things where you can't doubt Baker Mayfield for another year, especially in fantasy football. And so he's going to be going inside the top 10 quarterbacks, which I think is it's probably right. And so then you bring back Godwin, you bring back Mike Evans. Again, Jalen McMillan had flashes there. So I really like this. I do hope that Chris Godwin goes back, and it'll be interesting if he doesn't, where he lands and how those conversations turn. But that's one that I'm excited for. Another one that I wanted to bring up, speaking of, because we've been talking a lot about these free agent running backs, wide receivers, but I did want to bring up the Arizona Cardinals, because although they failed their NFLPA report card test and they're just like the worst organization to play for, Matthew in this article was saying that it looks like the Cardinals love James Conner. And so I think the big takeaway here was that James Conner is still going to be that bell cow running back for them. They're going to trust him the most in these kinds of situations. And that he says that James Conner is once again going to be undervalued in fantasy drafts. Every year it feels like. But he was healthy last year, which made, that was the more exciting part, because
he missed one game.
Yeah, people looked at it and they said, well, he's, he doesn't stay healthy. You can pencil him in for missing a couple games, handful of games during the season. But yeah, he missed one game. And so I love this. I continue to draft James Conner just because he's always cheap. And so especially if you're going 0 RB, he's always someone that I kind of look for. But I like this because I know there were conversations or questions about maybe some of the other running backs that they had, like maybe Benson, and saying, oh, is he going to take on a bigger role? Is the guy that's going to step up when James Conner is eventually done in the building right now? But looks like James Conner. Yeah, I love James Conner, and I will continue to draft him for sure.
Yeah, it all comes down to the price, because he will be 30 when the season starts. And last year was the first time he played 16 games ever in his career. The 2 previous years were 13. So it's a running back. You have to expect them to miss a few games. You just hope it's obviously not a season-ending serious injury. It's just the way the position is, even though last year was kind of an outlier. We saw so many stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, generally Connor, the last couple of years, 5th, 6th round. And if you go heavy wide receiver, if you're in a league that starts 3 receivers, and maybe you take 1 running back early, 3 receivers, and then maybe you go your tight end in round 5 and Connor's there in round 6. Again, I don't know his price right now, but if that's going to be the price, I would take him in that spot. We saw him catch 47 passes last year. And he's still productive.
Pick 70, running back 24. So 6th round, end of the 6th round.
Yeah. So
6'10".
So if you want to start with the running back, 3 receivers, and you decide to go tight end, then you come back with Connor as your RB2. I have no problem with that.
I love it. I've seen people, last year was so crazy at it. I remember we came onto this show so many times and said with the wide receiver injuries last season and the lack of running back injuries, it was just It was crazy, and I can't expect that. Not that we listen, it was great. We don't want injuries, but I just can't expect that to happen again. It just feels like it was an outlier for how many wide receivers were injured last year and the lack of, especially to the top guys. Like we don't want anyone to get injured, but lack of, for how much they used Saquon, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, like for all of those guys to be able to stay healthy the whole season was just incredible. It really was incredible.
It's something you rarely ever see. It's just the nature of the position. And that's why so many people like to go heavy wide receiver early. Now, it just happened to be that more of those top receivers got hurt this year. Doesn't mean it's going to happen next year. And that's the key that you have to take away from that, is that just because something happened last year does not mean it's going to happen the following year. And a lot of players who play fantasy football, they fall for the trap. They're like, well, I got to get all my running backs early based on what happened last year. And we know it's just not going to repeat, that some of those running backs, unfortunately, we don't want to see it, are going to miss time due to injury. But Connor will always be undervalued, because especially now too, with him being 30 at the start of the season, people are going to look for the younger running back, and I'm still willing to take him. I tend to back off players this age, but the price is not expensive. And if you're getting him as an RB2 in round 6, because then if it doesn't work out, you'll have a running back hopefully that you took in round 8 or 9 that you can plug in for him. You're not really counting on him that highly. You want him to be top 24, and he can.
He definitely can. Oh, Chuba Hubbard has moved to RB16.
But he should, though. He should.
No, he totally should. But he was closer to 25 than he was 16. If I
that was a mistake. We talked about that and wrote that in a newsletter like a month ago.
I think we did. Yeah,
we were saying like, really?
Said, hey, listen, and it'll be fun to figure out who the next Bucky Irving is, who the next Chase Brown is this season. Tyrone Tracy's down there, RB25. I think you're off Tyrone Tracy this year, right? We'll talk.
I'm not sure at this point. I'm not. Well, last year obviously was an easy click because he was so cheap, because Devin Singletary was the starter, and I felt like that wouldn't last.
Yeah.
I'm not sure at this point.
Well, we're going to find one. We're going to figure out who the next guys are in that space here. And of course, a lot of our questions are going to be answered in the next couple days with free agency and then with the draft coming up. So something we'll have to look at here. Adam, just want your thoughts on T. Higgins, because that happened, I know, a little while ago, but we haven't had a show since then. So gets franchise tagged for the second year in a row. My initial thought was that I still think that the New England Patriots were going to come in and kind of take him and give him an offer that they couldn't refuse. But then they also told, they also said, oh, okay, Trey Hendrickson is free to find a new home. So they gave him permission to seek a trade. That was per Ian Rappaport, and that was on Thursday. But he finished 2024 as the NFL leader in sacks, 17.5. And he was one of the guys where if you said, who needs a new deal, it's Trey Hendrickson, it's Jamar Chase. So I guess maybe they're going to try and get a deal done with Jamar and T, but I still have doubts.
Well, look, from a fantasy perspective, their defense was terrible last year. And it's going to be, at least right now, looks bad again, which is great for fantasy if you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, right? Because they're going to be giving up points. They're going to be involved in shootouts. So fantasy perspective, you love it. Higgins, yes, he's the number 2 to Jamar Chase, but he has shown he can still put up top-notch fantasy numbers. We've seen both of them excel. You'd like to see him maybe go somewhere else and get more of a target share. But with the way this team is built, he's still going to put up elite numbers.
Do you think in fantasy he'd be a better wide receiver 1 for the Patriots than a wide receiver 2 for the Bengals? Just for fantasy output? I think that's an interesting question of he's a wide receiver 2, but it's with the Bengals. It's with Joe Burrow. I don't know.
I think it's with the Bengals.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you could say he's going to get a higher target share, but what are those targets going to look? Again, I like Drake May, but for this year, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I'm still waiting to see, because the tag is never good for players. The double tag is especially bad. So I could see someone coming to them and giving them this deal and saying, "Well, here's all this money. They have nearly $130 million cap space, giving them all this money and saying that, giving them something they can't turn down." I don't know. That's
They
my
never
thoughts.
they never spend. It's
They don't
ridiculous.
pay. I don't know. It's crazy that we're doing this here, but okay, there we go. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. Have a great rest of your weekend. We're gonna see you back here on Sunday, and again, fantasylife.com. Have a great day.